Hey, HannahMouse1 here. Welcome to the devlog for Project 3 of the ScratchVent Calendar Challenge. If you don't know what that is, there'll be a link down below to a video with more details, but to summarise, the ScratchVent Challenge consists of 4 6-day game-making challenges where I get a prompt to include in the game on the first 5 days. The prompt for the first day was that I needed to make a survival game. So I started on a prototype with player movement. I decided to make it a game with a scrolling background, and I made it so that there's a central point, and the further away you get from that point, the harder the game gets, as signified through different areas or biomes. I made it so that the background can fade from one area to another based on the player's distance to the central point, and so that the player's health regens if close to the central point. I also started to code in the enemies, having them spawn in just off screen and then chase the player. I also started to code in a basic combat system with the player getting hit if too close to the enemy and giving the player a weapon with a basic swing attack. Day 2 gave me the prompt that the game's visuals should draw inspiration from found footage, and that made me think of people camping in the woods. I made the central base object into a campfire. The art style called for more detail than the past 2 ScratchVent games, with lots of gradients and shadows. I also created an overlay of transparent flickering bars to look like grainy footage, and I also made some UI to display a red dot with the word rec in the corner to make it look like this is a camcording. I drew the art for the weapon based on the sort of knife that someone might take on a camping trip, and then made the art for some of the backgrounds. The first of these was a grassy field, and because the background was no longer a single block colour, I had to make it so the background could scroll as well. I made another background to look like dirt, but spoiler alert, I ended up scrapping this. I continued the art overhaul on day 3, creating the art for the player sprite. I made them into a camper with a puffer jacket, which not only fit the theme that I was going for, but also had the benefit of hiding complex parts of the form, such as the hair under the hood or the hands in the pockets, making animation a bit easier. Speaking of, I needed to animate the player walking in each direction and being hit by enemies. I also created a basic zombie enemy, taking influence from Minecraft in the fact that they wear the same thing as the player, just slightly tattier. And I then made the varieties of the zombie, such as the pirate and the knight, as these were the 2 characters that the day 3 prompt indicated that I needed to include. I needed to create the walking and hit animations for these, and make it so that these varieties can spawn in based on the player's distance to the campfire. Because I had a bit more time, I decided to create UI to indicate if the player's health is regenerating from the fire, and made it so that the fire burns out over the time, forcing the player to collect wood and thereby leave their safe space of the fireside and fight the enemies. Day 4's prompt instructed me to include the underworld in my game, so I made that the 4th location from the spawn, and for the 5th and final area I made it into a black void-like zone. Both of these also needed their enemies, so I made a little demon for the underworld and a shadow monster for the void, and each of these needed the walk and hit animations. Once I got these implemented, I moved on to the logs that the player needs to collect in order to keep the fire going. I created the art for these with different sprites to reflect how many logs are in the pile. The further away from the spawn you are, the more logs will spawn in each pile. I got these to generate and display, making it so that you can pick them up and add them to the fire. I also added in a compass that will always point towards the fire because it was a little too easy to get disoriented and lost. And then I moved on to the title page, settling on the title A Fireside Recording, and made it so that clicking play starts the game. I kept a flickering camcording effect consistent with the rest of the game, and added an animation of the player sitting next to the fire. I based a game over screen off of this, except this says replay instead of play, and on this the fire is extinguished and the player is missing. I also created UI that takes Scratch's inbuilt timer variable and breaks it down into hours, minutes and seconds, and displays this as your time. Do I expect people to play this for over an hour at a time? No, but you never know. And I made it so that the game ends when the player's health is below 0. The items from day 5's prompt were a spoon, a kettle and noodles, which actually fit together quite nicely, so I was able to include all of these on the title screen. I had the kettle hanging over the fire on a jerry-rigged wooden structure as though the camper is boiling some water while they eat their noodles with a spoon. It added this sense of coziness, a calm before the storm, before the player's thrown into the creepy zombie survival game. I then added in a system wherein the game gets more difficult as time progresses. More enemies spawn, wood becomes more scarce, the fire burns down quicker, stuff like that, to make sure that the game can't go on infinitely. And then I made a sorting order script so that the sprites appear in front or behind each other based on their Y positions as appropriate. This is something that I cover in a lot more detail in my Pumpkin Patch Panic tutorial if you want to add something like this into your own game. Basically, it creates a list where all the enemies are added in order of Y position, and then the entities go forward the amount of layers respective of their position in the list. I threw together a thumbnail of the player and their noodles with some enemies creeping up behind them before moving on to sound. While this isn't a horror game per se, it's definitely called for a creepy atmosphere, and a massive part of that is sound. Instead of proper music, I had it play a constant loop of white noise with the occasional random piano note. With the enemy sound, I used Scratch's volume and panning tools to make it so that sounds are respective of where the enemies are in relation to the player. I did something similar with the fire, adding a crackling sound where the player is near the fire and the fire is burning. panning. I also added in a heartbeat effect that gets louder and faster and starts panning from side to side when there are more enemies attacking the player. From there, all I had to do was share the project, and that was ScratchVent Project 3 of 4 complete. Wow, how are we already 75% of the way through this? If you want to check this game out for yourselves, it will be linked down below, as well as a Google form where you can submit any of your ScratchVent projects that you want me to showcase in my videos. But otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. It lets me know there's something you want to see more of. Join the Discord link down below, and I'll see you next Sunday with another video. Bye!